Hey guys, it's Comp Hollywood Studios here, and in today's video I'm going to be reviewing Hersheypark's new for 2023 RMC roller coaster Wildcat's Revenge. I was very fortunate to be invited by Hersheypark to ride Wildcat's Revenge before it opened to the public. The ride opened on June 2nd, but we were able to ride it the day before on Thursday, June 1st for Media Day. That's how we were able to film the POVs and a lot of the shots you see. And I was able to ride it 11 times on this day, which I feel is a great ride count. I got a really good feel for the ride. I got to ride it in a number of different rows. I rode it a couple times in the front, a bunch of times in the back, a couple times in the middle, and I feel like I was able to really get a good sense for the ride. I rode it when it was running slow, when it first opened, and by the time it started warming up pretty good in the middle of the day. So Wildcat's Revenge, I feel I have a pretty good opinion on, having gotten 11 different rides on it. So first I do want to give a little bit of history regarding the ride. Of course, it originally was the original Wildcat, which opened in 1996. It was a GCI wooden coaster, and the ride closed in 2022. It was notorious for getting to be a pretty rough ride, and a lot of people really just did not like the ride. That's not to say it didn't have its fans, because it certainly did. I personally was not a big fan of this ride. I was able to ride it in 2012, 2017, and 2020. 2012 it was pretty good, but all the other rides I got on it were not very good. Didn't have the greatest layout either. That's why we were all rallying for it to get the RMC treatment, and when it closed in 2022, we all had a pretty good feeling what that meant, and of course Wildcat's Revenge was announced and wound up opening just a couple weeks ago. So in this video I'm going to go through the full experience of Wildcat's Revenge, including the queue, locker system, and of course the ride experience. So walking up to this coaster, it is really just very picturesque. It has a massive presence at Hersheypark with its giant 140-foot lift truss and just the whole area it's in general. It sits atop a hill, and that really helps to elevate how high it looks, because it definitely looks a lot higher than it actually is. Walking up to the ride, of course, you have the giant Wildcat's Revenge sign. The queue is almost identical to the way it used to be with Wildcat. Pretty much a straight shot with some switchbacks until you get up by the station. Very similar to the way the original one was set up. Where it gets different though is just before you get to the lockers. So Wildcat's Revenge does employ a double-sided locker system, just like Velocicoaster at Universal's Islands of Adventure and Dr. Diabolical's Cliffhanger at Six Flags Fiesta Texas. However, these lockers compared to that of Velocicoaster are a lot bigger, I felt. They were really a good size. You could fit a bag in there, and they were complimentary. Every locker at Hersheypark is complimentary, which I think is a great thing that the park does. I wish a lot of other parks would do that. And Hersheypark, even though they have a lot of extreme rides, not all of them do require you to put your items in a locker. Wildcat's Revenge, I wasn't able to get a definitive answer on what the locker policy is for the ride. During Media Day, we were allowed to take camera equipment up to the station, so we didn't absolutely have to use the locker system. However, most times I chose to use it because I felt that was the better choice. But other times we were allowed to just keep it in our zippered pockets. However, now that the ride has opened to the public, I'm pretty sure this is no longer the case and that the lockers are mandatory. However, I'm not 100% sure on this. Either way, the locker system is really good. First, you go up to a kiosk, and each kiosk is numbered. So say you go to kiosk 1, make sure you remember that your locker number starts with 01. Then it'll give you the locker number after you put in a PIN. All you have to do is remember the locker number and your PIN. It's pretty simple and a very quick process overall. From there you go up to the station, and what's interesting about the station is that the back row has a longer queue setup than the front row does, which is something I thought was pretty interesting. I guess the park knows that the back row is where it's at, even though front row is still very good, but people really want to ride the back row on this ride. Boarding the trains, they're pretty similar to other RMC hybrid trains. If you've been on rides like Twisted Timbers, Steel Vengeance, Iron Gwazi, very similar. The only thing different about this one is that it has a different seatbelt. It's not the same seatbelt used on rides like El Toro and of course the other RMCs. It's a bit of a different seatbelt, more plasticky. I'm not sure why this change was made, but it's nice. It's easier to unbuckle, which is good. And the lap bar is the same, except there is this strap in the middle of the restraint. I'm not sure what it's for. I don't know if it's for the operators or to grab it. I really couldn't figure that out, honestly, but it's there for your convenience if you decide to use it. From there, you dispatch out of the station with great spiels playing. One of the ones is that it's Wildcat's Revenge time in 3, 2, 1, which pays homage to the original Wildcat. And the station music in general is really good. It's the same music that was used when the ride was announced, which I really enjoyed. From there, you will drop out of the station into what is pretty much a triple down. If you don't know what I mean, you drop once, drop a second time, then drop a third time. And this has to be the best pre-lift I've ever seen on a coaster that I've ridden. You actually get a little bit of airtime and laterals before you even hit the lift hill, which is so cool. When you do hit that lift hill though, brace your ears because it's a loud one. Especially in the front of the train, you really hear those anti-rollbacks hitting, and it's pretty loud. But once you get over that first bit of the lift hill, it's very quick and fairly quiet. I was actually really surprised on all of my rides just how quick the ride gets up the lift hill. I really wasn't expecting it to go so fast, but make sure you take in that view quick because it is a really nice view. But before you know it, you're plunging down that giant drop. And this is really my only issue with this ride. I feel like the drop on Wildcat's Revenge is not the best RMC drop I've ever seen. In fact, it's one of the weaker ones. Even though it does have the height and it has a pretty good drop angle, I feel like it doesn't have the same punch as a ride like Iron Gwazi does, which in my opinion has one of the best RMC first drops. However, this ride was designed by a different designer than that of Iron Gwazi and a lot of the other RMCs, so it could have something to do with it, but the drop is a good way to get the ride started. From there, you will fly up into the world's largest underflip. At first, I was kind of expecting this element not to really do much. I didn't really know what to expect from it, but I was very surprised by the forces this element delivered. When you roll up into it, no matter where you are in the train, you will pop up out of your seat and experience a floaty sensation through the entire element. It is so cool, and I really love the floater feeling that you get as you traverse the element and then continue down into a drop. And this drop is very reminiscent of the original Wildcat drop. It follows the same exact structure as the original drop, so it's a really good way to pay homage to that ride. From there, you fly over this giant camelback hill, and this part of the ride delivers insane ejector airtime. It just throws you out of your seat, no remorse at all, and it's really powerful ejector airtime. From there, you're going to step up and bank to the right, and this little pop here actually gives you a really good amount of airtime, especially when you're in the left side. Something I've noticed from my rides on Wildcat's Revenge is that the left side of the train is noticeably better than the right side. I guess it's just the way the elements are profiled, but if you're going for your first ride, I would recommend riding the left side as opposed to the right side. Following this little pop, you have the first of 2 wave turns on the roller coaster, and this one is really good. It didn't look like it was traversing it with that much speed earlier on in the day, however, it still hit no matter what time of day it was. You just get pulled right up out of your seat, and it's a really good pop of ejector airtime as you fly down and up into one of the best elements of the ride, the zero-G stall. Now, I haven't ridden too many RMCs that have zero-G stalls, or at least a true zero-G stall. The only other one I've really experienced other than Jersey Devil is the one on Iron Gwazi, and I always felt that Iron Gwazi zero-G stall was probably the weakest moment on that ride. It just didn't really deliver many forces. However, Wildcat's Revenge is completely different. The entrance into this element throws you out of your seat, and then the hang time from the stall itself holds you out of your seat up until you get snapped out of the element and thrown to the side and back down. It is such an intense maneuver. I was surprised every single ride I got on it just how good this part of the ride was. Very intense, very floaty, and very snappy. From there, you fly into the second wave turn on the attraction. This one is even better than the first. The airtime is stronger, and the element itself feels a lot more drawn out than the other one, but in a good way. The airtime feels like it lasts longer than the first one. From there, you step up into this double down type element. This was always a really weird element to me when I first saw the ride announced. I didn't really know what to expect from it, but wow, did it blow me away. First, you pop up and get a strong dose of ejector airtime before getting thrown to your right as the track turns left and then drops down once more. This is one of the craziest airtime hills out there just because of the fact that it combines lateral forces and vertical G-forces in a way that I really haven't seen on many other coasters. You're out of your seat and getting thrown to the side, and then getting thrown out of your seat again while still adjusting from the fact that you got thrown to the side. It really is a wild element. From there, you dive into the ride's third inversion, which is a zero-G roll. But this isn't your typical zero-G roll. It's profiled very differently so that you get a really strong dose of lateral G-forces, especially in the front of the train. This is where the front row really shines. Especially when you're on that left side of the train, you just get thrown to the side. Even when you're ready for it, you can't fully brace for this element. Like I said, it's definitely much better in the front. However, even in the back, you still feel that lateral pull and, of course, the great hang time that comes with the inversion. It's a really great inversion. And following this inversion, you have what I kind of see as a helix, even though it really isn't a helix. It's a regular turn followed by an overbank turn followed by another turn that leads into the final inversion. But this element of the ride really displays how much speed the ride carries throughout the whole layout. It felt like it was absolutely ripping through this part of the ride, and I even felt myself start to gray out just a little bit. I was really feeling the positive G-forces through this section. From there, you have the final 0G roll, which feels pretty similar to most other RMC 0G rolls, except I noticed a lot more floater airtime through this one, as well as the fact that it takes it pretty quick. From there, you have a quick little turn to the right, followed by a pop upwards, which really delivers some strong ejector airtime. I didn't really know too much about the ride following the 0G roll going into it, so all of that was a surprise to me, and that little airtime hill with the outward bank really surprised me. Then you turn up and into the final airtime hill of the ride, which really caught us off guard every single ride, because it's not your typical airtime moment. You pop up and turn while you're hitting the brakes. So you're getting thrown up and then twisted to the side. It is such an intense way to end out such a great ride. From there, of course, you pull into the unload station, and like I said earlier, this is the only RMC hybrid coaster to feature a separate load and unload platform, and it definitely was very efficient. It sped up operations tremendously. It was very greatly appreciated. Of course, then you head down the exit ramp, retrieve your belongings from the locker, and you can check out your picture as you make your way out of the coaster. So overall, what would I rate this attraction? I'd say it's an easy 10 out of 10. This solidifies Hersheypark as one of, if not the best park in the entire country. It is such a great park, has a great atmosphere, and an even better coaster lineup. It might just be the best coaster lineup out of any park in the world. It really is so balanced and so great. Wildcat Revenge itself might just be one of the best, if not the best, coaster in the northeastern area of the United States, in my opinion. It really surprised me with its smaller size but great layout, probably the most unique and best layout I have seen from an RMC hybrid coaster. With that being said, that's going to do it for my review of Wildcat's Revenge at Hersheypark. If you guys enjoyed this video, be sure to like, comment, and subscribe, and I'll see you all in the next video. Goodbye, guys.